Welcome to Day Zero.
Welcome to the Day Zero podcast. Today I'm joined by Jeanne Anderson. We're really grateful and super excited to have her joining as the local market expert for the Mornington Peninsula. Jeanne, welcome.
Thanks, Angus. I'm pleased to be here.
So, Jeanne, we've got our offsite this afternoon in Sydney in Double Bay, which we're excited. We're getting everyone together from all over the country, which has been great. Mm-hmm. We're really excited to be announcing you after many conversations late last year. And what we were really impressed with you is, one, your absolute love for the area that you live in. Mm-hmm. And you definitely advocate for the area that you live in. You're passionate about it. And we could really see that coming through, which we'll love to talk about in a minute. Mm-hmm. You've got a huge amount of experience in real estate, not only in buyer's agency, mm-hmm. but also working for some of the leading real estate brands across Australia as well, in particular different roles. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things that you've done in your career leading up to real estate that's shaped you, how you approach customer experience and your entrepreneurial spirit as well. But to kick things off, let's firstly talk about the Mornington Peninsula mm-hmm. and how you ended up there.
So I moved from Western Australia many years ago when I was living in a city. So I decided that I wanted to, look at the area where I live, and I drove to Portsea pub, mm-hmm. and on the way I saw Rye and Blackberry and Sorrento, and it really resonated with me, just that clear water and the white sand. It reminded me, of Western Australia basically. So when I got married, my husband's family were also living in Mount Martha, so I spent a lot of time going back and forth, and I just liked that coastal village feel that it has. It's like, you have everything you need, but you feel like you're away from everything.
Yeah, and it was the same for me. Like I moved back from Sydney, from Coogee, love the beach lifestyle, the same as Perth by the sounds of you. Yeah. Looking down the peninsula, where we end up in Mount Martha, which is actually where you live as well. Yep. The beautiful beaches, but you also get the diverse range of not only the beaches, but also 5 minutes up into Red Hill, you're in the beautiful winery region there, some of the best wines in Australia or in the world as well. And what I've found really interesting, and I didn't realize this as much as when I actually started talking to you, is within the Mornington Peninsula, there's a very different array of lifestyles from Portsea, Sorrento, Mount Martha, Mornington. They all have their quirks and they're very different in lifestyles. Do you want to kind of explain a little bit more about each of those key areas and the different lifestyles that's sitting behind them?
So Portsea, that lifestyle is very much, the holiday homes, family mansions, for want of a better word, a lot of people holidaying down there, same with Sorrento. Then you've kind of got that back beach, St Andrew's Beach, where it's more of a local community. People live there, they all surf. That's a bit more relaxed and live music and a very different vibe. Yep. And I could almost pick, when I was the selling agent, the type of people that were going to move to those areas. Yeah. So you go to Northcote, Collingwood, they're going to be in St Andrew's Beach. Yeah. And then further down, you've got, the really high and schools. So then you've got all the families, mainly sea changers, I think, and people that have moved from the city tend to gravitate to that Mount Martha, Mount Eliza area. But it's just so diverse.
Yeah, and I think, do you want to kind of explain, let's use Mount Martha as an example. Sure. So Mount Martha, median house price around 1.5 mil, pretty sure.
Yeah.
Things can go from 800,000, there's a property for sale down there at the moment on the Esplanade for I think 13 million.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're looking very surface level, it's very confusing because the price point can vary by 10 million bucks depending on kind of a 500 meter radius.
Yeah, 100%. As well. Yeah, and then that's that. I think we've touched on it before. You've got probably maybe 4. Let's go with 4 areas of Mount Martha. You've got, Benton Square, so non-beach side, and then beach side. But even then, on beach side, you'll have two pockets of the beach side. One side which is smaller blocks, and the other side with big bay views and larger allotments of land. So that's where you're going to find the 4 very different price points based on the actual, micro area of, and it's also hard for people when they're trying to figure out a price point, because you can't do it like a normal equation on a per square meter, because it just doesn't work like that.
No,
at all.
No, it doesn't. Like you can get blocks closer to Mornington that are 700 square meters, but a $4 million purchase price. 100%. You can look in the middle, and it could be 2,000 square meters, but it sells for $2 million.
Yes,
as well.
that's right. Yeah, and there's a property on the market at the moment, and it's about 800 square metres in Mount Martha, and it will be knocked down, and that's going to be, in the low twos. But on the same beach side, but in a different pocket of Mount Martha, there's a similar proposition, and that's got an offer now for about 1.1.
Yeah.
So, a buyer would look and not understand that unless you know the reasons why in the areas.
So let's start now with, obviously very passionate about Mornington Peninsula, about all the different regions. You've supported and been a part of all different kind of communities down there, and Blairgowrie Yacht Club, but also a business that you started a couple of years ago, which was an outdoor cinema. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I brought the first silent beach cinema to Frankston. Well, it was actually to Australia. No one had done it before. I imported the screen from Florida, and I popped it on the beach. So through that process, I actually had to get a big city permit. I had to go through Delwip and Park. So that gave me a really good understanding of also how all the bureaucracy works within the Shire. Yes.
Yeah. And then transitioning from there, which is a super interesting business model. Can I ask before I move on, how did you stumble upon that in the first place?
Because growing up in Western Australia, my stepdad owned Coral Bay, which is an Ingley Reef resort. And he used to run an outdoor, just on a big whiteboard, outdoor movie theatre when I was growing up, and I had fond memories of that. So when I moved, obviously to Melbourne and then to the Peninsula, I could see there was like a bit of an opportunity to do something like that and bring something new. Yeah.
That's very cool, and what a great place to grow up as well. And now more onto the career side of things. Tell us a little bit about your passion and the reason for entering the buyer agent space.
So my passion for property probably started when I was an owner builder. I did a few houses in the city. From that, it wasn't so much, I guess, the renovating side that I liked. It was finding the home and the potential, and then seeing it, evolve, and then selling it for a profit. And that kind of started the journey. Then I found myself in sales on the Mornington Peninsula. Started off in Mount Eliza. Door knocking in the Woodlands Estate. If anyone knows that area, it's like 2,000 square metre block, so I did a lot of steps. And then that evolved over time. I ended up, they closed Mount Eliza office, and then I moved further down to Sorrento, where I was working with a very successful director, very hands-on one-on-one with him. He mentored me, but through that process, I ended up probably doing more of the buy work within that agency, and I found that I really enjoyed the feeling of helping someone, helping them see the potential in a home, matching them to the right home, and then helping them put the offers together. So I kind of started to lean more towards that role and fulfillment.
It's interesting how there's two sides of the transaction, sell side and obviously buy side. Buy side is growing at an exponential rate, as we've spoken about before. 2 years ago, buyers agents are part of 3% of residential transactions, now a part of 8% of transactions in an area like that we're in today. In eastern suburbs, it could be 30%, maybe 40%, depending on the time of year and kind of how hard the market's going. But what's interesting is the people that come within it. So what we've found a lot of is on the buyer side, it's very heavily geared towards advisory and more nurture of the buyer. It's a lot deeper in terms of understanding what are the key motivators as to where they want to buy, what they want to buy, and scratching under the surface of the what, because the what has 1,000 inputs to it.
As well. Right. I mean, and that's what I would find when I was when I was working for the selling side. When I did my buyer follow-up calls, I'd always say, well, if you don't want that, what do you want? What are you looking for? Then I'd always start to delve deeper. And I really enjoyed matching them and helping them. And then I also could see that there's a lot of people that don't understand. You think, you're looking for a holiday home, they've got $3 million. They would understand the sales process, and they don't. So I was finding I was teaching and educating and helping people to format the offer that it would be strong enough to present it to the vendor to help them buy the home. It's
so interesting. It's the way we've always thought about it is the way people buy property in Australia hasn't really changed in like 25 years. That's pretty clear. Yet the stakes have got infinitely higher. When you bought it 25 years ago, it was a $50,000 decision, and you could repay that mortgage in 6.5 years. You fast forward to today, it's now a multi-million-dollar decision, and on average a 25 to 30-year mortgage commitment, which is crazy that people still use a handful of comps.
Yes. But even then, so they rely on comps given to them from the selling agent.
Yeah.
Which are very aligned to what the price is that they're going to see, not necessarily what the price will it truly is. Yeah.
So when you sit down with a client, you're taking on a consult and a brief, what are some of the standard questions you get to ask people to try and uncover? And particularly, as you said before, if they're from Northcote, where are they going to buy? If they're from Armidale, where are they going to buy? And you start to form that brief.
Yeah.
What are some things, if people are going to be approaching you as a buyer, that you'd be asking them?
Where they're at on their buying journey. So have they offered on properties before? That helps me get a bit of an understanding of what they're looking for. I guess the reason they're buying. So is it a holiday home purchase? Because then that's going to make me look at what kind of holiday home. Do you like front beach? Do you like back beach? Like really uncovering what they need and they want. And if it's someone who's doing a sea change or a lifestyle change, and is it a downsizer? So making sure that they're going to buy in the right location that suits what they need, not necessarily, I want to buy Mount Martha 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, but well, what are you going to do with that house? Like, is it going to be a family home or are you downsizing? And just uncovering basically everything that they're looking for.
Yeah. And on the Peninsula at the moment, what are you seeing a lot of in terms of like number of off markets that you kind of getting access to? What would you say, which we all know this is really hard to get, where's the data at? Is it 20% are off market, 40%? How much of them you would just perceive a trading off market?
In Frankston, at the moment, it's a little hot spot. So there's a lot trading off market. Like I'm getting a lot of properties, so I'll get maybe five a week, and they will be sold by the end of the week because that's just at the moment everyone's talking about Frankston. I would say there's a good 40%, so 40 to 50%, dependent. It depends. It depends on the location and that particular market and how that's transacting. But in the faster moving markets, I think maybe 40 to 50%.
And I know you're big on data and doing a lot of research for your clients and just genuinely curious about every market that you're looking into, even into the Geelong market and out the west as well when you're doing stuff out there for investor clients. What is driving the Frankston market at the moment out of all the areas? What are the key fundamentals as to why it's driving? And what are the things that people might actually not know that might be driving it as well?
My personal opinion as to why it's been driven is there was a Frankston town plan that the council had for a very long time, and people knew it was there, but no one really, I guess, looked into it, which was to clean up the streets and do the high-rise apartments. And then there was a lot of people who were objecting. Then that got approved. So now these high-rise apartments are allowed to be built, which then has, I think, maybe people started to look into Frankston a bit more to see that this town plan will really clean it up. And it's like it's a city. You know, like a Geelong, and there's its own little city. There's a university, there's a hospital, there's a lot of potential there, and it's right near a beautiful beach, and it will be cleaned up.
And it's got a train line into the city,
that's right,
as well.
Yeah,
and what you can get there on 2,000 square meters for a house that's in really good condition with a pool and tennis court for sub $2 million.
Can I say, though, I think people are overpaying a little bit now. I'm looking at what some houses are going for in Frankston. I'm like, you could be buying in Mornington for that same amount with a higher rental yield.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yes, I'm finding a little bit people are so like blindsided or tunnel vision that are not actually looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point because I guess it does tend to happen in a lot of suburbs where once it has a run and it starts to make it into the mainstream media that more people think the social proofing is there.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and this is not always the case, but for us, it might be if once it hits a headline, it's probably done its dash or it's about at the top of the curve.
100%. I would suggest people probably miss that bubble now. And if you're in there looking, Frank's agent's probably going to hate with this, probably overpaying.
But that's good. That means they're a good agent as well.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can subdivide that Frankston quite to smaller blocks, which you can't really do in some of the areas as you move down. The ability to subdivide reduces. So that's probably another reason why it kind of erupted and blew up that potential.
Well, Jeannie, that's the quick introduction podcast. We've got to do a lot more podcasting, obviously, together. But we're super excited to have you on board the FOUNDIT crew. But lastly, before you go, I want to ask you, what's your property tip for people out there?
Property tip, is it a property hot pocket tip or just
either? You go for
tip? My property tip is don't rush into a purchase. Just because you think it's like a competitor, like that FOMO where people go to an open and they may not necessarily like it, but they see so many people there and then they panic. Really look and research and make sure that it is everything that you want.
Beautiful.
Not what you think you need.
Great advice. Thank you.